Hi guys, we're back to looking at chapter 14, which is sources of energy. We will look into it in a little bit more detail in this session. Okay, so now we're going to look at biomass energy. Okay, what is biomass energy? The waste materials and dead parts of living things are called biomass. Okay, now what we do is we take this waste material and dead parts of living things, and we use this biomass to create, like, biomass will give us this biogas. Okay, this biogas is what we will use to in like how we used steam and all in the previous steam or water, flow of water. We will use this biogas to rotate the turbines. Okay, or biogas straight away to what do you say, biogas can also be used straight away in the stove. Okay, so let's see how it goes, how it works. So yeah, we can get biogas from these: wood, animal dung, vegetable waste, agricultural waste, or sewage. Okay, all of these will give us biogas. Like our aim is, with biomass, what we want to do is ultimately make biogas. Okay, so we will create the biogas with any of these things. So biomass is decomposed by anaerobic microorganisms to produce biogas. Okay, so anaerobic microorganisms are just basically tiny beings, okay, living beings, living organisms, which eat this waste and create biogas. Okay, biogas is a mixture of gas containing methane, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and hydrogen sulfide. Now we know that carbon dioxide is bad, but in biogas it is good. Okay, these are the things that biogas is made of. It's not important that you guys learn this. This is just for your general knowledge. But if you want, please go ahead. Okay, so these are the main gases. Okay, this is the main setup of a biomass, like a biogas generation system. Okay, there you go. So let's just like pause here and look at all of the different aspects of it. The first is something called a mixing tank. We start from here. Okay, the ground level is this black color line, right? We start from here. Slurry of cattle dung and water. That means it's not always just cattle dung. Cattle dung is cow dung. Okay, it's not always just cow dung. It can also be like all kinds of waste. We mix it with water. Okay, and that mixture with water is called a slurry. Okay, that we mix in this mixing tank. Okay, and then we push it, we mix it, and it falls into this inlet chamber. It is basically just a chamber where we are going to collect it, and then it comes into this underground digester tank. Okay, now in this tank there are microorganisms, those anaerobic microorganisms, remember, which are going to create biogas. That is in this tank. Okay, so as the tank fills up, okay, the microorganisms, as you can see over here, the microorganisms, it's a zoomed in tiny snapshot of what is there in this area. The microorganisms start decomposing the waste, okay, the anaerobic microorganisms, and you can see the gas which is created. The biogas is created and it goes out through this pipe. All right, now after the biogas is created, the slurry, which is the spent slurry, which means there is no more biogas or anything in it, gets pushed out into this overflow tank. From there, this slurry gets used as manure. Okay, like we can put it back into like manure is like what we give food for the plants. Okay, so the biogas goes out and then it is used for either lighting or heating. Okay, so biogas is straight away used for heating, and for lighting probably there is a little bit more effort which goes in, okay, to get the biogas to light up a lamp. All right, so this is how biogas is. And then the spent slurry is, see, the spent slurry we will now use as manure. in our fields and all that. Okay. Now we'll talk about wind energy. In wind energy, similar to that tennis ball, we have the windmill here, okay, which is basically the wind turbine. So this turbine starts moving because of moving air, which is your wind, okay, which is why it's called windmill, because of the wind. So it's also called a windmill because like long before we used to use it and we called it windmill. Now we call it, you know, wind turbines. It's the same, okay. So the moving air, which is basically the kinetic energy in the air, is what we use to rotate the you know, the turbine, okay, the windmill, and this rotation is what we will get electricity from. So this moving air causes rotation. As you can see, the moving air is causing the rotation, and that is how we will generate electricity from this windmill. Okay, so yeah, let's see, like a lot of windmills together we will get a lot of electricity. Okay, and hold on, I think I may have missed. So it's the same like the same process as what we saw in the tennis ball video, right? In the tennis ball experiment, it's pretty much the same process. Basically the wind turbines keep rotating, and this rotation is what is captured by a dynamo, or like basically a generator, and this generator converts this rotation into electricity and gives us the electricity. So that's what is happening here. The electricity is going into the main line. Okay. All right, so that's about wind energy. Okay, now that we're done with conventional sources of energy, let's look at non-conventional sources of energy. We have solar energy, tidal energy, wave energy, and ocean thermal energy. Clearly, okay, all these three are associated with the sea, correct? Tides in the sea, or the waves in an ocean, or ocean thermal energy. So these are sources of energy from the sea. Okay, and you have geothermal energy, okay, or you have nuclear energy. Let's look at each of them in a little bit more detail. So now let's look at solar energy. Okay, solar energy, like how the name itself suggests, solar basically means sun. So solar energy is sun energy. Okay, you see these beautiful check boxes here. Okay, check these boxes, these tiny things. Now these are called solar panels. Okay, and what we do is we use these solar panels to capture the heat, and then we will use we'll convert the solar panels, will convert the energy into the sun's energy, the heat energy, into electricity, and give power up the electricity in the house. Okay, so solar cooker is one of the things, or solar water heater, or solar furnace. Solar furnace means heat. Okay, so as you can see, all of this, so in the solar cooker, the heat, we'll look at the working of a solar cooker, each of these in fact in detail. Let's look at them. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is a solar cooker. Okay, in a solar cooker, it's basically a box which is painted black, because black absorbs all the heat, and we place a glass plate on top of it. Okay, and we also keep a mirror. All right, what we want the mirror for is so that what we do is we'll tilt it so that all of the sun rays which fall on the mirror also reflect and fall into the box. Okay, so what happens is the sun's rays, okay, the mirror will capture them and put them. So why do we have a glass plate? It is so that the heat does not escape. Okay, and yeah, there you go. If we keep like a pot full of rice inside it, the temperature goes up to almost 140 degrees Celsius. That's very hot, okay? That's very, very hot. So it can cook the food inside, which is why this is a solar cooker. Now moving on to solar water heater. Okay, in the solar water heater we have these copper tubes and this glass. Hold on, let me just so this is how the solar water heater looks. Okay, there's these panels. Inside it we have an insulated box which is painted black, and we have copper tube, okay, and we have the glass plate. So what happens is the water passes through these copper tubes, and because of this black paint and the glass plate, the heat which is captured is heats the water up and sends it back. So the cold water comes like this, and the hot water goes like this and falls on the top of the tank. All right, so this is how a solar water heater works. So the cold water is going in and the hot water is filling up over there. Now another thing is a solar cell. So a solar cell is basically this one of these boxes. In this big panel, in this big box, you can see one of these tiny boxes is a solar cell. Okay, now multiple solar cells together only will give us any considerable amount of energy, which we can convert into electricity. So as you can see in this street lamp, okay, in this street light we have kept a solar panel, solar cell panel, which is going to convert the solar electricity into light energy, into electricity, so that these lights can burn, okay, can be used. So how does that work? So there are semiconductor metals, okay, like I'm not going to go into in-depth working of a solar cell because that is very, very high scale. You need to know a lot more things before I can go into that. But for the sake of the time, like for the time being, what we're going to do, what you have to remember is that there are semiconductor metals, okay. These metals like silicon and all, which is used to create this particular as you can see, this blue color plate underneath this this three like this front contact sheet, okay, and there's a back contact. So when the sun's rays fall on it, okay, it causes electricity, which leads to a bulb flow. So like the kind of kind of electricity that we can generate is just about 1 volt. So that is why we need multiple, okay, solar cells to create any considerable amount of energy. And yeah, so generally, like, yeah, as you can see, yeah, these massive solar panels are kept on the roofs of houses and all, where they can be used to get electricity for the house. Now let's look at energy from the sea. Okay, there are three forms in which the energy from the sea can be obtained. The first one is tidal energy, sea wave energy, and ocean thermal energy. Okay, we will look at them one by one. First thing is tidal energy. Okay, now tidal energy, do you guys remember tides? Okay, in 9th grade or like before, we learned about tides, right? In which because of the temperature difference between the sea and the land, we had these things called tides, which would happen in the sea. Okay, so this is what it is. So as you can see, the tide is forming, and this tide, this energy we use. So we have these particular turbines which are placed in the sea, in the seabed, near the seabed, which will rotate when a tide occurs, and this rotation is then used, okay, is converted into electricity by a generator and is used to power up homes. So that is how tidal energy works. As you can see, the tide causes the movement of these turbines, which will generate electricity for us. Now the second form is wave energy. What are waves? Waves are basically like when we go to a sea, right? When we go to the beach or when we go to the sea, we see a lot of waves, correct? So waves are also moving water. Okay, again, moving water is the main thing that we're using over here. So the moving water, we again have turbines, okay, which will start moving because of the moving water. Okay, due to the rise in water level, these turbines will start moving, and that we use to generate electricity, right? The turbines move and the electricity is generated. The next form is ocean thermal energy. Now remember, thermal I said is hot, correct? So here also there's something to do with heat, okay? So one of the things that you have to know is, in an ocean, okay, as you go deeper and deeper, the water temperature of the water becomes colder, okay, because on the surface there is the sun shining, so the water will be hotter, and below there is no sun, so the water becomes colder, okay. So you have the warm seawater and the cold seawater. What we do here for ocean thermal energy is we use this temperature difference, okay. We take the cold water and we take it up to the we take the hot water, and we use the hot water is very hot, right? We use the hot water, we maybe to rotate turbines, okay, and then we send that hot water after the so how do we rotate with hot water? Remember steam, remember the thermal power plant, right? In that also this is what we do. We take hot water and we we take cold water and we convert it into steam. So the same thing happens over here. We take the hot water, we pass it through an evaporator, and we convert the hot water into evaporated water, which is basically steam, okay. And the steam is used to turn the turbine, which is connected to the generator, which gives us electricity. Now this hot water, the steam is then sent into the condenser, okay, and where basically sent back down into the sea, okay. Here why are we not taking cold water and evaporating it? Because evaporating hot water is faster, right? If you keep already hot water in the stove, it boils faster, right, than keeping cold water in the stove. So the same process, which is why we use hot water straight away with the evaporator, and we send it back down into the condenser, which is in the deep in the sea. So this temperature difference is what we use to generate ocean thermal energy. That is how we create ocean thermal energy, and from that temperature difference we create electricity, which is how we get electricity from, that is ocean thermal energy, okay. This temperature difference, which leads to the temperature difference, is basically how we use the ocean thermal energy. So that's how we get our electricity. Now we're going to look at geothermal energy, okay. Let's break the term up, right? There is geo, which basically means I'm sorry. So there is geo, which basically means the earth, and there is thermal. Already we looked at thermal. What does thermal means? It means heat, correct? So geothermal energy means what? We're going to use the earth's heat, okay, to create the that is the energy, that is the source of the energy. So in geothermal energy is we use the earth's internal heat. Earth is very hot as you go deeper and deeper, okay, as we go deeper and deeper, the earth is hot, okay. So that is what geothermal energy uses. We use the internal heat of the earth, okay. So how in thermal power plants we used coal to convert water into steam, here in this case what we use is we will use this internal heat to convert the water into steam, okay. So that is how geothermal energy works. Let me just fast forward a little bit. So as you can see, there is water here, okay, and you have your hot water, right? So hold on, okay. Now this area, this gray area, this black gray area, this area, that is your that's the internal, that's where we found the internal heat, okay, of the earth. So now what we do is we put water on top of it, okay, and so it's hot water, right? So the hot water goes into this particular what do you say? So the hot water is going into this particular area where it gets converted into steam. You have the turbine and the generator, okay, which will convert the steam, what do you say, is used to turn the turbine, and then that is connected to the generator, which converts it into electricity and passes it on to the main line. Okay, and after the use of this steam, the steam is sent back into the cooling tower so that the water can go back down. Why is it called injection well? Because the cold water is injected into the back into the water source, okay, into this massive what do you say, area of water. So this area, that is where we found the internal heat. That is where we found the heat of the earth. So we are going to, basically we dug really deep, okay, and we found this particular place which is very, very hot, and we are pouring water over it, okay, a lot of water over it, so that this heat will create the steam of the water, and that steam is used to turn the turbine, and this turbine is then connected to a generator, which is going to convert the turbine rotation into electrical energy and send it to our homes. Okay, so that is geothermal energy. Okay, so now we're going to look at nuclear energy. All right, so nuclear energy is the source of energy for nuclear energy is basically a nuclear reaction. Remember the nucleus of an atom, right, where you had your protons and your neutrons. So that is what our target is in this nuclear energy, nuclear reaction. So what we do is, there are two ways in which we can create nuclear energy. One is called nuclear fission and the other one is called nuclear fusion. Okay, we will look at the two of them one by one. So nuclear fission is when you have this massive nucleus, okay, and this massive nucleus breaks into smaller nuclei, okay, like smaller nuclei. There you go. So you see this big nucleus, okay, these two big nucleuses are breaking into smaller nuclei. Hold on, let me just show you that whole thing. See, it just kind of like breaks apart, okay, into these two smaller nuclei. Now when it breaks apart, along with these two smaller nuclei, a lot of energy is also released. Okay, so this release of energy is what? So now, as you can see, these three, free what do you say, I'm not sure if it is a nuclear, like these three free particles are going to go and attack more of these particular what do you say, big nucleus, okay, nuclei, and it's going to again cause splitting. Okay, so this is one of the main drawbacks of nuclear fission is this. Okay, do you guys, okay, so an atom bomb is based out of this principle. Okay, so if it keeps going like this, okay, with every split, a lot of energy is released into the, is released. Okay, so what happens in an atom bomb is the split keeps happening. Okay, as you can see, it's going to keep happening. It's going to attack the newer nucleuses. Okay, these particles are going to come and attack these nuclei, and that is again going to, so this massive like it creates a chain reaction. As you can see, it started here and then it went to this, like it split it split three of these massive nuclei, and then it's going to attack the other nuclei. So this kind of a chain reaction, this is what the main, like, atom bomb is based on. Okay, so in our case, when we want to generate electricity out of it, what we will do is we will control the nuclear fission so that this chain reaction does not happen. Correct? If it happens, then what's the point? We don't want to create atom bomb, right? We want to create electricity. We want to create electrical energy from this nuclear energy. So what we do is we control it. We control the fission reaction so that it is we can get. Yeah, so what we do is, yeah, the controlled in this reactor, okay, this is a containment building where we will keep it. Okay, the reactor is where the reaction will happen, the nuclear fission reaction will happen, and you will have that will release a lot of energy, correct? So that energy, again, what we do is the same. We pass water and we use the energy to heat up the water so that it becomes steam, and this steam is used to turn the turbine, and the turbine gets in turn is connected to a generator. Okay, the generator converts the turbine's rotation into electricity, okay, into electrical energy. So the same process. All right, so inside this reactor is where there are two possibilities. It can either be nuclear fission or it could be nuclear fusion. We will see what nuclear fusion is in just a minute. So remember, nuclear fission, it is when a particle comes and attacks a particular stable nucleus, and then the nucleus breaks into two, okay, with the release of more particles and a lot of energy. So in our case, when we want to generate electricity, we control the fission. We control the fission process. The nuclear fission process is controlled in to generate electricity. If we do not control it, it leads to atom bomb. Okay, we don't want atom bomb, right? So the next thing is nuclear fusion. Now, what is nuclear fusion? Nuclear fusion is when two nuclei come and combine together to form one nucleus. Okay, so as you can see, two of these, okay, are rotating. They have come, they have combined, and they have combined, and they have created one nucleus. Okay, and this is basically what nuclear fusion is. So nuclear fusion is when two nuclei combine to form one nucleus. Okay, fission is when one nucleus splits. Fusion is when two combine to form one nucleus. So again, here also the combining process leads to a lot of energy. Okay, it leads to a lot of energy. In fact, in our sun, this is the exact process, which is why we can see the sun. The glowing of the sun is because of this fusion process. Okay, in our sun, this is exactly what happens. Okay, so what do we do again for generation of electricity? The same thing is what we do. Okay, we carry out the same experiment in which we combine two nuclei into one nucleus. Okay, in this so in the reactor, it's either a nuclear fission process or a nuclear fusion process which happens. Either of like whatever it is, it leads to a lot of energy release. This energy release is used to take water, convert it into steam, and this steam is used to turn the turbine. Okay, is used to turn the turbine, and this turbine is connected to a generator, okay, which will convert the nuclear energy, okay, and the rotation, the nuclear energy which causes the rotation of the turbine into electrical energy, which is what we want. Alright, so now that we have finished looking at the sources of energy, both conventional sources of energy and non-conventional sources of energy, we are almost reaching the end of the chapter. Okay, now just a little bit more. So firstly, let's look at the environmental consequences of using these sources of energy. Correct? We have fossil fuels which cause air pollution. This is something that we already talked about when we talked about fossil fuels also. It causes air pollution. We also learnt this in 9th grade. Then we have solar energy, which does not directly cause any pollution, because what happens is the sun falls on these panels and then we collect the energy. Correct? We saw the video about that. But the assembling of the solar panels may have caused pollution. Like the things that we use within these solar panels may lead to pollution. Okay, so finding a truly pollution-free solution to pollution-free solution to energy sources is kind of hard, and we are still working on it. But this is just like, you know, we, whenever, whatever source of energy we're using, we have to keep in mind about, we have to think about the environmental consequences, okay? Because we have to live with the consequences, all right? The second question that we have to, you know, really ask ourselves is, how long will an energy source last us? Okay, we already saw fossil fuels. Now we know that these fossil fuels take so many, like the fossil fuels that we're using today were formed billions of years ago, correct? It was because of living organisms who lived billions of years ago. So we cannot, it is not a renewable source of energy. What does renewable mean? That we can keep reusing it, like we can keep using it, correct? It is never going to end. But that is not the case with fossil fuels. Billions of years ago, not that many living organisms lived. We are almost running out of fossil fuels. In another 200 years, we will not have any more fossil fuels left, right? Then how will we live? So fossil fuels are a non-renewable source of energy. Whereas, what is a renewable source of energy? No matter how much we use it, okay, no matter how much we use it, we will not run out of the source of energy, which is something like solar, correct? The sun is never going to go away, correct? So unless the minute the sun goes away, like, it will be many, many years later, like it will be another billions of years. So solar energy is a renewable source of energy, whereas fossil fuels are a non-renewable source of energy. Maybe, you know, like, let's maybe you guys want to take a minute and think of the kind of energies that you use every day, like we discussed in the beginning, right, in the beginning of the chapter. And maybe you want to think about those sources of energy and think, and, you know, be like, classify them into renewable and non-renewable sources of energy. It's just an exercise that you guys can do.